Thanks for watching ERi-TV, dear viewers. Welcome to our news broadcast. Merry Christmas. In our domestic news and the headlines. His Holiness Abuna Petros gave benediction in connection with Orthodox Christmas. Conference on controlling natural and man-made calamities in Massawa. No end in sight for strikes in crisis-hit Britain. In our domestic news, His Holiness Abuna Petros, Archbishop of the Eritrean Tewahedo Orthodox Church, gave benediction in connection with Christmas. Abuna Petros gave a detailed briefing on the background of the holiday and wished Happy Christmas to the Eritrean people inside the country and abroad, as well as to Eritrean Defense Forces. Abuna Petros also called on the faithful to support families of martyrs and extend hands to the disadvantaged nationals. His Holiness Abuna Petros also wished peace and prosperity to the people of Eritrea. A workshop organized by Eritrean experts focusing on the causes and consequences of as well as managing the aftermath of natural calamities was organized in the port of Massawa on 3 January, indicating the importance of early preparations to identify and conduct research on consequences and natural calamities, including earthquakes and drought, as well as man-made calamities, including deforestation and air pollution. Professor Gabra Birhan Aubazgi gave a briefing on the significance of conducting research to identify the nature of calamities and measures that should be taken. At the workshop, preliminary research papers focusing on calamities of earthquake and volcano in northern Red Sea region, climate, agricultural and environmental calamities in the northern Red Sea region, as well as calamities at the Red Sea coastlines, were presented by Professor Gabra Birhan, Dr. Walda Selassie Aubazgi and Dr. Zacharias Abdel Karim, respectively. The participants on their part called for sustainable awareness-raising activities, sustainability of workshops, as well as conducting on in-depth research, indicating the significance of conducting research with a view to controlling natural and man-made calamities and designing development programs. Ms. Asmarat Abraha, governor of the region, expressed readiness to back up the initiative. The Ministry of Education branch in Foro subzone organized training to 207 teachers from 43 schools, focusing on teaching, lesson planning, and evaluation of students. The trainers reminded the trainees to design measurable and effective lesson plan and evaluate their students from time to time with a view to ensure their competence, indicating that the training will have significant contribution in the development of teaching learning process. Mr. Ismail Ali, head of education office in the subzone, called on the trainees to translate into action the training they have acquired. The trainees on their part called for organizing similar training programs in the future. Those are domestic news. Please stay tuned now for the international news right after the short break. Some of London's biggest railway stations are shut since yesterday, while airports such as Gatwick are also deprived of any train services as strikes on the network reach a critical peak. Commuter services into the capital run by Thameslink, Southern and Southeastern, have come to a complete halt. Train drivers are walking out following a long dispute over pay. A day after Sunak pledged to tackle the country's problems, rail workers again took to picket lines as part of a week-long strike that has paralyzed the network, while daily reports document the mounting pressure on hospitals where patients routinely wait for hours and ambulances queue in car parks. The worst bout of worker unrest since Margaret Thatcher was in power in the 1980s, combined with the return of double-digit inflation, has produced a sense of depression in Britain, where living standards are falling at their sharpest rate since records began in the 1950s. Nurses, paramedics, border office staff, and postal workers have also taken strike action, angered by inflation that is 40 years high and touched 10.7% in November. Workers in other sectors are balloting for future action. Britain is March, and the industrial action with workers ranging from train drivers to nurses and border control officials protesting against below inflation pay offers. In retaliation, the Conservative government is planning new legislation to force workers in crucial sectors to maintain service levels while on strike. Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered his defense minister to impose a 36-hour ceasefire on the Ukrainian front line beginning on Friday. The ceasefire, scheduled to start at 12 o'clock Moscow time, will coincide with the Russian Orthodox Christmas. Mr. Putin asked Ukraine to reciprocate, but Kiev quickly rejected the request. The Russian Orthodox Church celebrates Christmas Day on 7 January, according to the Julian calendar. Some people in Ukraine celebrate Christmas on 25 December, others on 7 January. Both days are public holidays in Ukraine. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said on Thursday he may meet Syria's Bashar al-Assad as part of a new peace process, after their defense ministers met last week for the highest-level talks between the two countries since the two-Syrian war began in 2011. In a speech in Ankara, Erdogan said the next step following the landmark talks between defense ministers of Moscow would a trilateral meeting of foreign ministers from Turkey, Russia, and Syria to further develop contacts. The conflict, which has killed hundreds of thousands of people, displaced millions, and drawn a regional and world powers, has ground on into a second decade. All the fighting is at a lowest intensity than in earlier years. Syria has recovered most of its territory. Turkish-backed opposition fighters still control a pocket in the northwest, and Kurdish fighters backed by the United States also control territory near the Turkish border. Heavy rain and powerful winds are lashing across areas of northern California, and forecasters have warned of the risk of flooding and landslides. More severe weather is expected as a result of a powerful storm system known as a bomb cyclone. At least 2 have died, including a toddler, and thousands are without power. California has been under a state of emergency since Wednesday. Much of state has been hit by atmospheric rivers, an airborne current carrying dense moisture from ocean, bringing heavy rain to low areas, powerful winds to San Francisco, and snow to Sierra Nevadas. Evacuation orders and advisories were in place in part of Northern California, and local authorities have warned of threats to life and property, especially around San Francisco and Sacramento. Forecasters have warned the storm will form into a bomb cyclone, a type of explosive storm, and will likely be densely and deadly. Please stay tuned now for a recap of tonight's headlines. His Holiness Abuna Bedros gives benediction in connection with Orthodox Christmas. Conference on controlling natural and man-made calamities in Massawa. No end in sight for strikes in Christ's hit Britain. Putin orders 36-hour ceasefire over Orthodox Christmas. That was our news for tonight, dear viewers. It is good night from us, and Merry Christmas.